If you clicked on this video, you've no doubt at one time or another asked yourself, what is the meaning of life? Or perhaps a similar question, such as, what is the purpose of life? And if you asked it and were unable to find an answer, that likely made you feel uneasy and may have even filled you with a sense of fear or dread. But why is that? Why, in other words, is it so important that people have an answer to the meaning of life? Well, it would appear that if we do not have a meaning for our lives, we do not know what to do with ourselves. Given multiple options in how to act, we do not know which one to choose. With meaning, we can say that we should choose this option but not that one. But without meaning, we have no basis for choosing to do one thing over another. Now let's think about this for a second. We need to know the meaning of life in order to know what to do. The implication here is that the meaning of life gives life a kind of structure, an order to our daily lives. But it's also sort of like a command telling us how to act. And in fact, this is exactly how it played out historically, at least within the Western world. A god high above laid down various commandments, telling people how to act, and people could rest easy knowing that, so long as they followed God's plan, they were good to go. But of course, if you're searching for the meaning of life, that means that God's plan didn't really work out for you, that either you don't believe in God, or you don't feel that He was very clear in His instructions, and so you're left without guidance. But maybe, just maybe, the real issue is with the question itself. Maybe the problem isn't with the answers which have been provided for the question to the meaning of life. Maybe it's the question itself that's the problem. Let's think about this for a moment. What does it really mean to ask, what is the meaning of life? Or rather, what would an answer have to look like in order for it to be satisfying? Strangely, whatever answer we might come up with, it would have to be outside of life, wouldn't it? Because in order to give structure to life, you would have to provide boundaries and limitations to life. Meaning, by its very nature, is a kind of limit, and the meaning of life would necessarily limit our actions to those that are, quote-unquote, meaningful. Now I want you to really think about that. Every answer that someone might put forth to the question, what is the meaning of life, must come from outside of life. It must be imposed upon it. It must surround life, put boundaries on it. In essence, imprison life. And so long as we stay within that prison, we feel that our life has meaning. But if we step outside of it, suddenly we feel as if our life has no meaning, or is being wasted. When looked at this way, it seems rather odd, doesn't it? Here we were, chasing after the meaning of life, only to realize that, if we were to find it, we would be putting ourselves into a cage, enslaving ourselves and our actions to this meaning, while the meaning itself stands outside of life, is not actually a part of life. Now, I don't know about you, but this doesn't really work for me. I'm not really interested in boxing myself in. I'm not really interested in enslaving myself to a meaning which itself stands outside of life. Alright, so what's the alternative? Well, if the answer to the question about the meaning of life must necessarily stand outside of us, and it's the wrong way of looking at things, then perhaps the way to look is more inward, not in the sense of introspection per se, but to life. Look to life, but not to this guy or that animal, though such observations might be quite useful, but to yourself. Observe yourself, see what arises. If it's time for you to get up and go for a walk, then do that, rather than asking yourself, well, yes, but how will this walk play its role in the grander scheme of things? How do I know I should be going for this walk instead of doing something else, such as watching another one of these excellent videos by Wolfgang? Well, you know it because your body told you it's time to get up and go for a walk. That's your answer, and it's really the only answer that matters. What I'm getting at here is that there is no meaning to life, and that's a good thing. Because if there were, if the question, what is the meaning of life, were a legitimate question, and also had an answer, then this would put you and me and all of us in a kind of prison, where we would have to watch our every action like a hawk, obeying this meaning like a slave, so that we do not ruin or waste our lives. It would be like we have a boss telling us what to do all the time, rather than allowing ourselves to tell us what's appropriate. But in absence of this meaning, we are free. Not to do anything, mind you. No, that's the mistake so many have made. What it frees you up to do is to do what you would do were you not so concerned about what you ought to be doing. You are now free to simply live, to tap into yourself and let yourself decide what is to be done, and then do it. And that's the beauty of it, of coming to this realization. Because now you'll never again be unsure about what to do, because doing is not an idea, but an action. Let me repeat that. Doing is not an idea, but an action. Doing does not need an idea to hold it in and make it meaningful. Doing is simply doing. So go do something, or don't. Just listen, and what you're to do next will bubble up from within you in time. And then you'll go do it. All right? All right. Later.